is a spiritual deity. Freedom and liberty and justice shall fight for you. When you fight for freedom with all your soul, take it from me. This is Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB, the voice of the nation, the voice of the rising sun.
This is the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB, bringing you news, cultural and educational programs. This is BCB, the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra. This is Rose Ama, and this is BCB. Today, we bring you a special program. It is important, it is urgent, and it is necessary. We hope you listen to it to the end. Thank you. Join us. Hello, fellow Biafrans. This is Rose Ama, and this is BCB. And this is one of those special occasions when we talk to our brothers in the struggle. And today we are fortunate, absolutely fortunate, to have a brother who has been in this struggle for quite some time, Nwa Biafra, Dr. Oguchi Nkwocha, who has agreed to share with us today his perspective on a wide range of things, including the sit-at-home program that our people are experiencing or participating in right now on Biafra land. But, and talking about some pro-Biafran groups and their actions, Biafra restoration, Biafran solidarity, and our responsibilities. In summary, we are going to have a deep conversation on a number of things that affect our lives. And I do hope, my people, that you will listen. We need the wisdom of our people. So my brother, Dr. Oguchi Nkwocha, perhaps you could introduce yourself just very briefly and tell us how long you've been involved in this struggle, because I know how long you are, but let's hear it from you.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, on whatever time frame that you are in. I really want to thank everybody for being part of the audience today. And I especially want to thank the BCB director and moderator who is conducting today's call and today's program. My name is Oguchi Nkwocha. I am not a stranger to the struggle for Biafra actualization, and my formal entry into it started back in 1999 by the inception of MASOB. And I have been very active since then, because I looked around and I find that the only hope that we have for our people to fulfill themselves and to fulfill their destiny is a Biafra that is independent and clearly out of the Nigerian political space. If you need to get some more information, you can also Google my name and you'll see the activities that we've been involved with since then. But I'll leave the introduction at that, and I'll hand back over to the moderator so we can go to today's topic. Thank you, moderator.
You're welcome. One of the topics that you and I have been discussing for quite some time is the current sit-at-home program or current sit-at-home activities. and the impact of that particular program on our people. I know that you were somehow involved in an earlier, at least, sit at home. So perhaps you can talk to us about this sit at home, how you see it, and connect us to the earlier sit at home and the history of sit at home activities in our region.
Thank you, moderator. Yes, allow me to address the current sit at home program and also the role of pro-Biafran groups and their actions. Biafran solidarity as an issue, as a topic, and Biafran citizens' response and responsibilities when it comes to mass action, collective action, such as sit at home and such like exercises. But first, I want to point out right from the beginning that this is my own individual opinion. I'm just one Biafran. I'm a staunch Biafran. This is my opinion. Let's take you back to the first sit at home that was done in 2004. Most of you now, you'd have to be almost 30 years of age to understand that sit at home and what happened then. So I want to talk to you about what we asked of our people with that first sit at home in the year 2004. Our people being our fellow Biafrans. And I wanted to talk to you about the effectiveness of the sit at home actions. Because in doing so, this will help us examine the present sit at home exercise and put it within full context. At the same time, I also intend to reawaken the consciousness of our people about our collective and individual responses to edicts that are placed on us as a people. We have responsibilities here. Because at the end of the day, let me remind you, we are all children of Aba women, of the Aba Women's War notoriety. That was an action by our women that forced and extracted significant and permanent favorable changes on Imperial Britain's colonization policies way back in 1929. Because you see, we are a people not beholden at all to authority, even when one is anointed. But we are a people committed to shared participatory leadership. Leadership by consent, by representation. Let me wax philosophical a little bit here to state that the compass needle may quiver and tremble and hesitate, as it were, as it seeks true north. We, on the other hand, as a people, are already settled and centered dead on when it comes to governance and rulership. Biafrans, we do not bow to authority that we ourselves have not empowered. That said, let's go to the first Biafran sit at home protest, and I'll just bring up the highlights. On August 26, 2004, the first sit at home protest in Biafra land and Nigeria happened. It was a smashing success. Most Biafrans anywhere in Nigeria and almost all Biafrans in Biafra land proper responded to a plea and call by Masob and Biafra Foundation to show solidarity and unity of purpose by voluntarily observing a one-day sit-at-home to protest the unending, appalling, vicious, murderous, and criminal treatment of Biafrans in their own homeland and everywhere else in Nigeria. And Biafrans answered. Did they ever answer? The resulting dramatic paralysis of Nigeria was extremely effective, and it was enough to prompt surprised and bewildered Obasanjo, who was the head of Nigeria at that time, to scramble and issue, in explanation of the development, a big lie to the world that the Igbo were merely observing and celebrating New Yam Festival as a holiday. Really? In any case, the Nigerian newspapers, even in their bias, could not help but report the following day the alarming effects with headlines and with phrases like cripples business, shuts down, closed shops, while online discussion groups use subject lines such as more huge success. It's been 18 years, and if you are just 10 years old in 2004, you'll be turning 28, almost 30 now. In case you weren't there on that day and in those times, and you were not part of the planning and execution of this most effective nonviolent protest, here are the salient points. 1, the main goal of the Biafra protest, of the sit-at-home protest, was to show unity of purpose, which means that Biafrans, long derided by their detractors as being too individualistic and only motivated by individual ambition and financial and other self-interest, these same Biafrans could act with one mind and with one voice. That Biafrans, in any matter where the subject is Biafra, are united in their purpose of sovereign independent Biafra existing outside of Nigeria geopolitical space. That Biafrans will voluntarily make huge sacrifices, livelihood and financial sacrifices notwithstanding, in performing acts that contribute to Biafra affirmation and self-determination when approached and asked. Our protest was hugely and alarmingly successful, and it was essentially voluntary.
Wonderful, wonderful. This is excellent. This is, thank you again. This is a wonderful and powerful beginning, which actually connects us to a lot of history. And it's not just simply recent history, but history of the colonial past, which in many ways, continues to inform our actions. The Aba Women's War, which, the British called women's riots, as if, the women were not organized, destabilized the British administration in the old Owerri provinces, Aba and current Aba, up to Calabar, Imo regions. So, and in fact, as somebody who teaches, the history of women's protest, or, history of women's experiences on the continent and globally, we cannot talk about the history of women's protest on the continent without talking about the Aba Women's War. It is a very central piece in any discussion of women's resistance on the continent. And therefore, for us, it is significant. And it is significant that it happened in the area that we call Biafra land today. So I hope our people are paying attention and that they would look at this as something, a history that informs our actions. But what you have done is to connect it, bring it forward into the present. And you talked about the first sit at home in 2004. I'm curious, whether I am curious, and I'm sure other people may be curious, but let's hope, that this will provide us with some of the answers that I've been, trying to, find for myself. When the first sit at home was organized in 2004, was this just simply by, a small group of people, or was it coordinated with other groups, political, organizations or other activist groups? How did you manage to get Biafrans to come out en masse to join this particular protest?
Thank you for the insightful question and very informed and informative comments on the first response. Now, at the time, if you recall, MASSOB was the prominent group, pro-Biafran group, and the Biafran government in exile was not formed then. It was Biafra Foundation that was acting in place of a government. And we worked hand in hand with MASSOB. The Biafra Foundation was based in the US, and we formed as such, formed the diaspora arm of Biafra governance. And MASSOB was a group at home that worked very closely with our home people. So we wrote articles, we publicized this, we talked on our radio because we had Voice of Biafra International now, the forerunner to current BCB. And we worked with MASSOB folks, and hand in hand, we went and we talked to our people, anybody that could listen. We talked to other pro-Biafran groups. We sent messages, we wrote articles in the newspapers that would carry them. So by publicity, by consent, and polling our people, telling them exactly what we were doing and what we intended to accomplish, which is just to show that, we as a people can demonstrate unity of purpose. Again, remember that at the time, Nigeria laughed at us. Nigerians always laugh at us. They say, oh, you Biafrans, you're very individualistic. You can't do anything together because you're only interested in your own self-pursuits and self-accomplishments. So we went to our people and said, we are more powerful than that. We can get together and we can put our mind together and we'll do something about it. Just again, like you talked about the About Women's War that I referenced earlier, the unity of purpose, the women in all those places, all those cities and provinces you spoke about, in the then Eastern Nigeria, they got together and said, no, we are not going to take this from the British or their appointees. This has got to stop. They showed a unity of purpose, which is the same thing we preached to our people in any way that we could preach to them. And they understood that and they came together. So that's how it was accomplished. We talked to our people. We told them what we were going to do. There weren't any guises. We weren't going to control their action. We weren't going to show power that we have power over anybody. No, we talked to them and said, you have power. You can do this. If you get together and you say, as a people, we're going to do this, you can do that. That's how we convinced our people.
That's wonderful. I mean, again, we're talking about the power of collective will, the power of collective participation, and that when our people are involved, when we participate as a united front, we do make a difference. It's like the fist, right? You know,
Yes.
if we fall together, we've come together as the fist, we can punch holes through any walls, through a whole range of things. But if we stand separated as individuals, you know, or just simply focus primarily on our self-interest, then we suffer. And that's important right now. So moving on then, I know that at a certain point, you know, that you know, there was concern about at least connections with the All People's Progressive, is it All People's Progressive Grant Alliance, APGA? What about that? Might you want to talk about that a little bit? How did they get involved? How did you know, what's the connection really?
Okay, good. APGA, All Progressives Grand Alliance. Again, it was the same story. Now we go back a couple of years, 3 years before the first sit-at-home. And at the time, it was time for Nigerian elections. And some people thought that, well, the Biafran should have a political party in Nigeria that would represent Biafran interests or interests of the people who's there. They weren't using the word Biafrans, but we as Biafrans knew exactly what they were talking about. What happened again is that we went to our people and said, look, we need to act with one mind, again, with one mind. We need to act focused on the same purpose, unity of purpose, because we want to deliver a powerful message by achieving what would be, what would look like an impossible goal. In 2002, 2003, most of you, if you're adults, you know what was happening in Nigeria. It was Obasanjo's days, and nobody hates Biafrans as much as Obasanjo and his government and administration, but they all hate Biafrans, and we'll get to why later. So in 2002, 2003, we Biafrans demonstrated the same unity of purpose, and use that in the case of the formation and participation of ABGA in Nigerian politics. The Nigerians, once again, they concluded that ABGA was literally dead on arrival, since it was formed in the eastern region by pro-Biafrans. And since we were a defeated people, and since we could never come together, we could never muster enough power, enough force to form a political party in Nigeria that would stand. The Nigerians went as far as mocking Biafrans, and they sought to remind us of Biafra's defeat in the Biafra-Nigeria War. And in addition, they wanted to remind us of divisions. Keep in mind, these divisions in the previous Eastern region, they were deliberately engineered by Nigeria in order to weaken us and to divide us. But they were quick to remind us that we were not united in the Eastern region, and therefore how and why would we form a party that would be successful? So that was the background. So we went again to our people, our fellow Biafrans, and we laid our cards on the table, and we candidly admitted upfront and declared that, one, we do not really ever want to be part of Nigeria or part of anything Nigeria, least of all part of Nigerian politics and Nigerian elections. We made that clear to them. We never want to be part of that. We also made clear to them that we actually know that Nigeria will rig the elections in Nigeria's own favor, regardless of the outcome. So what's the point of going to form this party when you know that Nigeria will take everything away from that party? We knew that, and we told our people, yes, we admit that. We also know that no political party registered in Nigeria will function any better than the already existing corrupt ones. And we know that participation in Nigerian politics tarnishes the reputation tarnishes reputation, and leads to loss of integrity, assuming there were scruples to start with. All politicians all get corrupted quickly in Nigeria. We knew all these things. We told our people, you know these things, we know these things. So we're just putting them out there, admitting this upfront. We're not pulling the wool over your eyes. We're not going to lie to you and say this or that. Now, these are the things that we know, and they're all negative. But we went back and said, all that notwithstanding, we will still plead with you, fellow Biafrans, to go out of your way to vote for ABGA. And why? Because, as we repeatedly stated to our people then, we want to prove to Nigeria and to Nigerians that we Biafrans can come together in agreement and make up our minds and deliver with one voice, regardless of the circumstances, in the name of Biafra. As you recall, Nigerians were already mocking us on that score. We wanted to affirm to our own convictions and for our own benefit that we can actually be and can actually act in unity for the sake of Biafra, in spite of obvious misgivings. So what was the result? Our people were listening to our appeal. We told them that we vote for ABGA. We do this not because we expected ABGA to perform any different from Nigerian political parties ultimately. For that matter, we knew the contrary for a fact based upon experience and performance. We do this. We vote for ABGA. We go out there and vote. We do this because we want to demonstrate that we as Biafrans do have solidarity and can use it. So after we did this appeal to our people, what happened? Everything we stated happened. We got ABGA on Nigeria's political map of present victors. And yes, the elections were rigged by Nigeria, that was a given, but ABGA still triumphed. So that was how ABGA came about. That was how things were back then in 2003.
Amazing. I mean, think about it. It's the power of, organized movement. This is why unions work, really, when you think about it, because here you are putting together the community, pulling together the people under the umbrella of one group. And in many ways, one political party that serves, or served, the interest of a group, united front, when we think about mass movement, when we think about mass action, it requires coordination, it requires belief, and the people believed in what this party could offer. The people believed in the dream of the group itself. And this is important. I hope our people are listening, because right now it is important for us to think in terms of our collectivity. Our survival depends on this. Okay, so let's take a short break so that my brother here can catch his breath. And then when we come back, hopefully, we'll engage more with the project of sit at home, and especially the sit at home as it is happening today, where a lot of people are feeling that they are being forced to sit at home. Have the people who have organized this sit at home gone and talked to our people the same way that Dr. Nkwocha here has indicated that in the past they went and presented their case before the people so that the people will have buy-in? so that the people would join us? And that's a huge question. So a short break and we will be right back. This is Rosama and this is BCB.
Freedom is a spiritual deity. Freedom and liberty and justice shall fight for you. When you fight for freedom with all your soul, take it from me. This is Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB, the voice of the nation, the voice of the rising sun.
Rosama again. We are back. I am back here with my dear brother, Dr. Gucci Nkwocha, who has provided us with a lot of history about contemporary sit at home, if you want to call it sit at home, connecting us with the history of our past during the colonial period. I bet that there were also other times when we protested, but let's stay with the colonial administration's, quarrel with, about women. In fact, some of you may know it as my grandmother used to refer to it, Ogu Mundum or Ogu Umunwanye. That's what it was, Ogu Umunwanye law against the British. We are engaged in a battle for our survival as Biafrans right now. And it is against an administrative structure that was set up, guess what, by the British. So that history hasn't left, it is still there. We may think, some people might think colonization ended when, they said to you, oh, you have independence, na lie, na lie, na lie. It didn't end. A lot of us who do research in this area talk about a post-colonial state, a neo-colonial state. Yes, all those colonial structures are still there, except that right now, the biggest colonizers, all colonizers want to be, that we're dealing with, are the Hausa Fulani, who are repeating the structures they inherited from the British, from the jihad of Usman Dan Fodio, the desire to conquer the rest of us and dominate us and turn us into their slaves or whatever they think we ought to be. The desire to trample us with their boots. It will not happen because our people fight back. The history of Igbos, of Biafrans, did not stop with the British. It came across the Atlantic. In the United States, they talk about the Igbos, the fighting Igbos, Igbo landing, those people who refused to be enslaved when they came to the shores of the Atlantic in the New World, the so-called New World. They came out in chains and they looked across the seas and they saw this land that was not familiar to them. And they said, we shall not be taken. We would rather die than be enslaved. They turned around, chanting songs that their captors did not understand. And they walked into the great Atlantic and died. That story fueled the story of slave resistance in the Americas, in the New World. It is part of the history and mythology of anti-slavery movement in the United States. You can do the research, look for Igbo landing. And I'm not just talking about Igbos. So that what we need to do is to dig deep into our history and find those moments when we resisted, when we fought back, because we refused to have our humanity and our dignity robbed from us. Today, we're faced with that kind of challenge. But in the case of the sit-at-home that we're talking about, at least today, as our people are watching it, it is one that has been imposed by our own people. And a lot of people have started to complain that it's not working. There is something that is not working. It's not that sit-at-homes are not wrong, are bad, but perhaps the structure as it is right now is not the one that might suit us. I don't know. That's my opinion, but let's hear what my brother, Dr. Oguchi Nkwocha, has to say. So, but before we go into that segment, perhaps you can also talk about other times when, you know, the group has appealed to Biafrans to engage in sit-at-home events. Do you recall any?
Thank you, moderator, and thank you for putting within the context of this conversation, this topic, the historical facts and pieces that you've brought in. Yes, there were other major occasions when we had also appealed to Biafrans to sit out events, and I can tell you that almost every cycle of Nigeria's elections, we advise our people to sit it out. Why? Because, as mentioned earlier, those elections are rigged, and they are rigged to disfavor, to displace, and subjugate Biafrans always. So why join somebody who wants to rape you and make it easy for them? No, you resist with everything that you have. So we appeal to our people to sit out those elections because they do not benefit us in any way, but are designed to punish us, designed to foist Nigerians over us and deprive us of our livelihood and power. And then there was a significant event, the Nigerian census of March 2006. And most young people do not realize that Nigeria did not want to conduct a census because they were afraid of the facts that actually the Biafrans as a group would be the first major, would have the highest population by count, by census in Nigeria, especially well and way above the quoted, assumed, made up figures for Hausa, Fulani, and the Northerners. Because they were afraid to know the facts, they refused to conduct a census. The United Nations prodded them to conduct a census. And not only that, they gave them a grant, a huge grant, monetary, financial grant to conduct this census. And of course, you know what Nigeria would do? They put a Northerner in charge of the census, and the rest is history, because we knew exactly what they were going to do. Whether it's election results or census results, they would manipulate the figures to make it look like we were the Biafrans had the lowest census in Nigeria. So we talk to our people and say, you're going to be, the numbers that will come out of this census will not be the correct numbers. They've already prearranged numbers, and they are going to give you a low count regardless. You're going to be the last, if you're the least populous area. And that was what happened. But in anticipation of that, we talked to our people and say, you know, do not participate in this census exercise. It's a sham. It's going to be rigged, and they've already indicated that it's going to be rigged because they put a Northerner there. You know, they didn't even care for authenticity of the results. They just wanted to put their man in charge. Okay, so that happened. So in these occasions, we have gone out and we talked to our people, and we asked them to sit out some events.
Okay, thank you again. I was also hoping that, you know, you could address moments, you know, when or why we use sit at home, is there a particular purpose that, besides protest? Of course, protest is important, but why you sit at home?
Thank you for that question. Again, it fleshes out the whole topic that we're discussing. Yeah, why these actions, whether I sit at home or sit out, or to go and support APGA, formation of a political party in Nigeria, when we know that, it's a sham. In the end, it will be. We use these acts to affirm the unity of purpose, to get the unity indeed and solidarity of Biafrans. And those acts have been very successful. Okay. We use sit at home, for example, as a tactical plan, to achieve a short-term goal or short-term goals, albeit in support of the overarching long-term and broader picture of Biafra. This strategy affirms Biafran unity, Biafran solidarity, and uniform collective action of Biafrans at all times as the ultimate power and force against all foes and against all adversity. The mystique of this tactic is that it is voluntary. Biafrans are not forced to participate in the act, yet they show up in large numbers. They show up in majority numbers. The power of these acts and their effectiveness lie in the consent process. Consent. We go to our people, we get Biafrans to consent. Yes, we talk to them and say, yes, we obtain this consent by going to our people, by appealing to our people, fellow Biafrans. And in response, they oblige us with positive responses. But make no mistake about this, although non-violent, sit-at-home boycotts, participation are costly for Biafrans, extremely costly. Each act is a sacrifice, and a huge one for many Biafrans. Making an exception to one's own principles, even though you know what the results will be, takes an emotional and psychic toll. Yet, Biafrans will do it for Biafra, in the name of Biafra, for Biafrans. It is all about Biafra, for the sake of Biafra, and all for Biafrans.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's really excellent. I am so glad that you said that, because you have emphasized over and over consent, that people consented. It is voluntary. It is non-violent. It is, a sacrifice, and it's a sacrifice both in economic terms and psychological and physiological terms. And this brings me to the question of today's sit at home. I realize that, it's happening in, the Biafra areas, primarily just a few states, not the entire geographical region, defined as Biafra using the old map, but it is predominantly the Igbo-speaking Biafran states. So, and the cause, listening to people, both students, businesses, small businesses, mothers, parents, people are beginning to complain. Of course, initially it was exciting, it was innovative, it was creative, but now it seems as if there is no end to it. And when we think about the history of sit at home, or, protests, or, boycotts, there they are used strategically. I want to use the word strategically. You know, I mean, case in point, think about the one even in South Africa, the anti-apartheid movement. They did a lot of boycotts, but there wasn't such thing as a permanent boycott every week, you know, the same structures. There were a series of boycotts. So I'm beginning to wonder how this particular sit at home in Biafra compares to, you know, other ones. You know, perhaps you could talk about this in relation to previous ones, because honestly, I want to echo some of the voices of people that, you know, that I've been talking to, and some of them say that it's costing them, which is what you said. You know, it is costing them economically, because when you're sitting at home every Monday over a whole year, think about it. It's the loss of revenue. Students' education are affected. A whole range of things are affected. So how do we do this sit at home, you know, boycott, and at the same time, not really destroy our own homeland? I don't know, help.
Thank you, moderator. Again, a very insightful question there. The current sit at home that's scheduled continuously in Biafra land is wrong. And I want to summarize it by using a quotation from the scriptures. I know many of our people are religious that way. You remember Mene, tekel or frasen. The current sit at home exercise has been weighed in the balance and has been found wanting. Because I've given you the background of sit-at-homes, sit-outs, and participation, and what we did and why we did it. So considering the current exercise, ongoing exercise, we must recognize that it does not qualify as a tactic. No, it does not support any appropriate long-term Biafran strategy. No, does not. It is policed by party members, introducing a stark element of coercion. It is insensitive to the sacrifice of our people, in that it does not acknowledge the suffering of our people in this. There is no evidence of consultation with our people and or the consent of our people. Our people were just taken for granted. No appeal was made to them, no pleading with them, no explanation of what was going on. Just an edict that must be carried out and by force. This is wrong. The current ongoing sit-at-home exercise is wrong. I want to state that bluntly and several times. It has no tactical or strategic advantage and contributes to none of that to Biafra or to Biafrans at this time. Our people are just being subjected to severe economic and physical burden without their consent. Biafrans are suffering as a result. Biafra is suffering. It must therefore stop. This current sit-at-home must stop. And the time is right now. It must stop now. It is un-Biafran. To the group or groups who have instituted this sit-at-home exercise, here's a recommendation for you. It's not just a recommendation, you should actually carry it out. Though we understand that your intent is pro-Biafran, nevertheless, we ask you to end this exercise. You have maintained this program because you believe it gives you power and shows that you as a group have control over our people, over our fellow Biafrans. You believe that this gives you power over Biafrans, over our whole people. There's nothing more un-Biafran than this. Is this the type of future you see for Biafra? No. And all fellow Biafrans will say no. And no, this is not the type of future we want for ourselves or we see for ourselves. In the future, any such act must be presented to our people first. There must be a specific short-term goal, a specific short-term goal where we show that we can unite and act with one mind, where we show that we can unite and act with one mind. It's not just a group deciding one day and going out and imposing this on our people. So now and in the future, for exercises like this, we call on all pro-Biafran groups to work collaboratively with Biafra Provisional Government, or BPG, of which the arms are BGIE, Biafra Government in Exile, and BSG, Biafra Shadow Government, within the homeland. Perhaps in a future program, we'll talk about the governments, the provisional government that's representing Biafra and Biafrans at this point. In fact, in 2004, at the first sit at home, as popular as MASOB was then, it worked with Biafra Foundation, the forerunner of the Biafra Provisional Government, to organize that successful sit at home and to talk to our people, to engage our people, and with agreement, BPG and the groups will work together to present the case, to present our case to our people, to explain the plan to our people, and to obtain our people's consent. Obtain our people's consent before proceeding with any actions that affect the welfare of our people. Any actions that disturb our people at that level. If we follow this procedure, it ensures that we are not splintered into groups that impose different individual group demands on our people, which would be a sure recipe for post-Biafra actualization partisanship warfare. Rather, we will organize under a reliable and traditional structure, a government.
Okay, this is excellent. You have identified what you see as the problem with the current sit-at-home structure, its implementation, and of course, the problem where people are not have not consented and have not been really asked to join to do this voluntarily. And of course, because of that, it almost seems as if this is an assertion of bullish power. And as we know, bullish power is not respected. It's almost like a dictatorship. And we don't want a dictatorship. We cannot just simply try to fight one dictatorship and replace it with another. And you are absolutely correct. Our people have to consent, have to be involved. We have to give them opportunity to look at this and say, yes, we agree with what you're doing, and we are willing to make this sacrifice. Otherwise, it's going to be nothing but chaos. So I thank you for, pointing this out. I realize that this is, it's a very challenging conversation, that we are engaged in a conversation here that some people would like to engage in, but are afraid to engage in. And as I've mentioned several times during our talk here, the people that I have been talking to at home, and a lot of them have indicated that they're just simply not too happy. But then they say, but what can we do? They're afraid to do something because if they do something, somebody might kill them. People are beaten. There is, I don't remember, who did the research where they found out that 60% of the people they interviewed said that they were tired of the sit at home. 60%. Businesses complaining that it is decimating their economy. Some businesses have packed up and left. Is it really worth it? Is it working? Of course, that says to us that it's not working. So I am glad that you have taken the time to talk to us, but I also applaud you for having the courage, because it takes courage to speak truth to power, as they say. It takes tremendous courage to come out and say, this is not working. This is not the best way to go about this. That said, therefore, do you have anything that you might say directly to Biafrans? Because they are the ones who are involved in this. What would you like to say to them, to our people who are really involved, who are the ones who are, who are experiencing the brunt of this sit at home that we're talking about?
Thank you again, moderator, for putting things in the correct perspective. So first, I want to show and express appreciation and gratitude to fellow Biafrans. So to fellow Biafrans, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your ability to put everything aside to come together for the sake of Biafra. I want to thank you for your ability to accomplish feats, even those which defy the logic of our nature and strength as individualists. I want to thank you for your ability to prove wrong the predictions of our enemies, who only see us as driven by personal pursuits and interests. To repeat, I want to thank you for your ability to accomplish feats, even those which defy the logic of our nature and strength as individuals. Yes, we know how and when to come together and act with one mind, and you have demonstrated this time and time again. This is, in fact, what Nigeria is so afraid of. Nigeria knows very well that when we Biafrans put our minds and heads together, there is no stopping us. For this latter, I thank you. We thank you. So I'm going to make a call to individual and collective Biafra for correct and corrective action with regards to this, what I would now call unconscionable sit-at-home exercise that's foisted over our people. I have earlier said that the present sit-at-home exercise imposed on us is wrong. It is wrong. Now, our part, we must learn to decipher when a good tool is used wrongly or when a bad tool is being used. Now, that is the responsibility of the Biafran. That is our responsibility collectively. We need to examine every tool to understand, okay, well, this may be a good tool, but is it being used wrongly? Or in fact, this is a bad tool altogether. This is one such occasion, because the sit-at-home is being used by a group to demonstrate that that group has power over you. It's being used by this group to show that it has control, the group has control over you, Biafrans, and that this group is happy to exercise such over you. This is anti-Biafran. This is un-Biafran. But this has got to be stopped, and you can stop it right now. If you haven't already, as you listen to this, as you hear about this, stop it right now. Because you are going to refuse to comply with any edicts or directives starting today. Yes, refuse to comply with any edicts or any directives starting today. In refusing to obey this sit-at-home edict, you have not attacked or injured anyone. For those of us who still believe in the old ways of Ogu na Ofo in Igbo, in refusing to obey this sit-at-home exercise edict, you have not attacked or injured anyone. You have not shown hostility toward anyone. You have simply claimed your right to live as a free-thinking Biafran. So, get up, return to your usual work schedule, return to your usual activity schedule, return to your usual business cycle. That's your part of the act. Keep in mind, when the day comes, as it most certainly will in the future, and we call upon you for such a program, whether to sit out or to sit in or to go out and act, you will know that it is legitimate because we will consult you first. We will come to you first. We will come to you, Biafrans, to explain our case and get your consent first. And it will be your government making the presentation to you. If you agree with us voluntarily, we act. If not, no one group will impose anything on you. The government will not impose anything on you. And you will only be acting to show our collective power when we work together in agreement. You will only be acting to demonstrate our solidarity and prove our unity of purpose at a time and at a place when we need such a demonstration. We will never take you for granted. Yes, that day will come. We're going to come and we're going to ask you. That is our pledge. We will never take you for granted. We will always get your consent, and we will spend time to explain to you what we're doing on your behalf, and you'll agree with us and we'll move on.
Okay, so let me ask, I'm going to play the devil's advocate, and I like that you are addressing our people directly, and you are, saying to them, you do have the right to say no. You have the right to refuse to be subjugated. You have the right to refuse joining this protest because it is a right that is guaranteed to you simply because you're a human being. You have the right to freedom. Nobody can take that away from you. And if this protest makes you feel that you are not free, you do have the right to say, absolutely not, I'm not going to comply. But here is the thing, as I mentioned earlier, when I ask people, but why do you keep going? They say, well, what can we do? What can we do? So what do you say to our people, who say, all right, what if we refuse, what happens to us if we refuse to honor the present sit at home? Who is going to protect them? What do you think? What is your perspective on this? Because part of what's driving the action, the compliance on the part of our people is fear. And we do need to figure out a way of encouraging them. What? what advice would you offer to them?
Great question, moderator. And so, yes, our people may be asking, what happens when I refuse to honor the present sit-at-home exercise? And here's my response. Number one, most likely nothing will happen, okay, because there is no moral authority or collective authority given to this group to extract such a sacrifice from you, okay? Very likely, though, some elements of some groups or individuals may come after you. They may do it in one of two ways. If they try to persuade you with words, then remind them that they are that their group is self-serving because their edict does not benefit Biafrans. Remind them that using their tactics to exercise power and control over Biafrans is in their self-interest. It is anti-Biafran. But likely they may resort to force and to coercion, usually groups of individuals, in spite of their group, of their political group or pro-Biafran, so-called pro-Biafran affiliation. Now, the Biafran organization, pro-Biafran organization, may actually deny that they're doing anything, and it's just some elements of their groups. So these elements may resort to the use of force and coercion. When that happens, you remind them that they are the ones that are committing crimes. Remind them that they are committing tyranny against Biafrans. They are the ones betraying Biafra and Biafrans. And then record their crimes in any way that you can, including with your mobile phones and cell phones, put them on the media. Report those crimes to whichever authorities over you at the time. You record their crimes, you report their crimes, you publish their acts in all available media. Most of these groups and their minions, they look at the media. You publish their acts, the facts of their acts in all available media. You press charges wherever you can press charges. And you defend yourself and your property. Most of all, support one another in these actions against the anti-Biafrans and against people that are placing anti-Biafran edicts on you. Above all, do not remain silent. Above all, do not remain silent if they come to enforce this and attack you. Okay. Whether now or in the future, these records that we talked about shall be revisited and justice will prevail on that day. It may be justice delayed because of circumstances, but eventually all these records will come up and people that have committed crimes will have to stand for those crimes. Okay, so I want to remind you, dear friends, you remember who and what we are. Although many of us will be hurt, injured, and some of us may even die as a result of the hostile actions of some misguided and wicked Biafrans. Yes, although we will hurt, we will be injured and will suffer. But remember who and what we are. Biafrans survive. We have always survived and will always survive because it is our nature to resist and to defeat unwarranted levies, unconsented decrees, and unlawful impositions on our people. We'll resist and will resist all tyranny against us. Though we lose life and limb in the process, yes, we will lose life and limb in the process, but we resist and we resist all tyranny against us until we overcome them. That's why we resisted, we still resist, and will always resist Nigeria. That's why we have left Nigeria. That's why Aba women went to war. That was not just a gratuitous story and inclusion in this topic of discussion today. The Aba women, they have a lot to teach us. They have a lot to say about the Biafra spirit. We recall that many of these are beloved women lost their lives, shot to death by British officers on the orders of the British government. Many were injured, but in the end, their resistance to colonial imposed authority and edicts was productive, not just for the time or locality, but for the future and for the entire world's womankind and humankind. You, we are the children of Aba women, who in turn were the children of an unbroken line of fearless women who would not be subjugated, fearless women who would not be subdued, fearless women who would not kowtow, and who would not be cowered by power, by control wielding of principalities, by anybody, not by a group, not by a country, not by anything. We are children of these fearless women. So, a charge to you Biafrans, to all of us Biafrans, to our people, if you are given to swearing oaths, if you swear oaths, then unless you are a consenting party, unless you consent to something, swear an oath to yourself to never give authority over you to anyone or to any formation. Swear an oath to yourself to never cede power over you to anyone or to any formation. Swear to never recognize such power or authority when or where it is usurped. Swear to never recognize such power or authority when or where it is imposed on you. Any of this by anyone or any party, even by fellow Biafrans, you swear that you are not going to participate in it. You're never going to give them such a power. For those of you who do not swear, or are not disposed to doing that, fine, make a pledge. A pledge will do in place of an oath and carries the same imperative. One more element of this, one more aspect of this. When it comes to government and governance, government being a truly, truly necessary institution, Biafrans, do resolve now that it is you who will collectively establish, populate, and empower such a government or governance. It is you who would be meting out only authorities you collectively deem fit. And it is you who, having government and governance, serve you, the people, not dominate or lord over you. Fellow Biafrans, do not allow any self-serving group or groups rule over you or dominate you, especially at this time as we pursue Biafra actualization, even if it's a pro-Biafran group. Because if you do, when we get to Biafra, and we shall get to Biafra, that's our destiny. If you do allow self-serving groups to lord over you, there will be a war among these self-interest groups and their loyalists and we will lose Biafra again. Rather, Biafrans, affirm the Biafra Provisional Government, BPG, with the full understanding that it represents the uninterrupted continuation of the government of Biafra established in 1967, and that it is, quote, provisional, unquote, because it serves we the people now, during this period, and until we get to Biafra.
Okay. This is it. Perfect. Until we get to Biafra, we do have an organizing structure. What I'm hearing from my brother here is that we as Biafrans, we have to educate ourselves again on our rights. Part of the reason why people are able to wield fear over us seems to me to be the assumption that we don't have any rights or we cannot do anything. Remember, collective power, collective power. When we started this conversation, we started talking about it in terms of collective effort, what people can do when they come together, which is why to stop this current sit at home that's not working, you cannot sit back in your house and complain every day, oh, what can I do? It's not working. It's disrupting my business. Or just simply be a bystander, watch other people who are saying it's not working for us. We have to go back to school. We have to go back doing our business. And you stand by and watch them being beaten up. As my brother has said here, the people who have, the people that have been identified as organizing, at least initiating the current sit at home, say that they have stopped it, that it is some disgruntled entities, former affiliates who are carrying out these horrendous acts in your communities. It is time for you to take action too and stop it. Solidarity, that's what you need. We need solidarity. Dr. Nkwacha has also indicated that there is a governing body, the Biafra Provisional Government, that we ought to look up to, we should work with, because that governing body connects us with that government of Biafra that was set up by Odumegwu Ojukwu when the government of Nigeria was trying to exterminate us. Just because we lost the war didn't mean that the government died completely. No, it is like a phoenix. It rose from that ash and reimagined itself. And it is reimagining itself right now. And we have to have hope and faith that the leadership of that government would lead us to Biafra. But we have to work with that particular body, not any Tom, Dick, and Harry that shows up and says, I am this, I'm doing that. No, we need to be organized. We need to be focused. Like an arrow focused on our target. What is our target? It is Biafra. We cannot be distracted by all these other acts. If the current sit at home as it is, and as you have said, is destabilizing, why not do something and say, we're not going to do it anymore? Enough. Fight back. Yes, 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 yes. We are the children of Aba women. Those women went out there. Chedekweni, think about it. They went out there under the sun and the rain and the heat, and they sat in front of the British administration office, took off their clothes, chanted crazy songs at them. Start back there when the men in our community were stopped from engaging in trade. That's why the mothers went out. They were protesting for the whole community, the whole region. The British wanted to symbolically castrate our men. Then they attacked the woman. You know what they did? The woman said, no way. We will not take it. So they went out and they sat down and they fought back. And they said, we're not paying these dumb taxes. We don't want the dumb head counts. You cannot terrorize the men, terrorize our communities, come into our communities and try to trample us. This is what we have to do. So if you're sitting back there and waiting and going, your hands on your head and screaming, we can't do anything, we're waiting for God to come and help you. Wake up. Even God says to you, God is not going to help you if you can't help yourself. So wake up and do it. We need to wake up. My brother has given us a lot, and this has been an amazing, helpful, historical, wonderful conversation. I realize that there is much more to talk about, but we're coming to the end of our program. We don't want you to get tired listening to us. We want you to come back. I want to thank him. I know he mentioned the Biafra Provisional Government. For those of you who do not know about it, I'm just going to let him talk to you about it, and then we will close. Again, this is Rosama, and this is BCB. Dr. Nkwocha, could you explain to them what Biafra Provisional Government is doing and some background on it? I know you mentioned it just a bit.
Thank you, moderator. And in the interest of time, we'll just summarize it quickly. And I am sure that the BCB will have another opportunity to just do a focused piece on the Biafra Provisional Government. About this Biafra Provisional Government, 3 months prior to the original sit at home, back in May 2004, an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, was secured and signed by various leaders of the various nations making up Biafra. And that also included pro-Biafran groups at the time, regarding the shape and functioning of future Biafra. To formalize that MOU, to formalize that understanding, a seminal documentation was deemed necessary. This would become the Biafra Charter, of which 3 years in the making and signed by the same signatories as the MOU, with an official publication date of May 30, 2007. The Biafra Charter authorized the formation of relevant and necessary governance structures for the fulfillment of the mandate of Biafra actualization, as a continuation of the previous Biafra government. In response, the Provisional Government of Biafra was formed and declared on August 28, 2007, according to the stipulations of the Biafra Charter. Yes, we Biafrans do have a government to serve us through the transition, and there is authority behind it, as stated in the Biafra Charter, the document approved by our elders on our behalf. Let's make this government work for us, the people of Biafra. And if I may have one more minute.
Please do.
Finally, I salute you. We salute you, O people of Biafra. You come together. You've always come together when we need you, when we have needed you, when we ask you, when we have asked you, and you risk everything, life, limb, all of it, in fact. You come together to demonstrate solidarity. unity, and one voice. That is the power of Biafra. That is who we are. That's what we are. Please remember this always. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are at the end of our program. I want to end or close this conversation today by thanking my brother here, Dr. Oguchi Nkwocha, for this important, absolutely important, necessary, timely, and informative conversation. I want to call it really a sharing of knowledge, because that's what it is. And this sharing has empowered us. I hope that it has empowered you, my people, Biafrans, and that you will listen to what you have heard and implement the ideas that have been offered to you. In that case, therefore, I want to thank you, our listeners, fellow Biafrans, for joining us today and for your patience and your support and your willingness to hear us and to join us in this journey. It's not easy. It won't be easy, but hopefully we'll get there together. I want to thank our sponsors for supporting us. It's not been easy. We do need sponsors. Please contribute to our programs. And to BCB, thank you for offering this platform. This is Rosama. I hope you'll join us in the future. And this is BCB. Thank you.
This is the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB.
This is the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra. Thank you for listening to us today. Join us next time for news, cultural, and educational programs. This is the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB.
Hail to Biafra, consecrated nation. O Fatherland, this people's holy pledge, defending thee shall be our dedication. astray. Give us the strength.